Hello?
Hello, Mr. Gold.
Yeah.
Hi, you the urban landlord.
Rent freezes will affect him, and he's saying how he has ghost apartments, as they call them.
For landlords to cover their expenses. So instead of fixing them and bringing them back up to code, landlords will lock the door and never rent them again. Have you gotten quoted for what it would take to bring this apartment back on the market?
On a very low note, doing the minimal amount of work, probably 30,000 bucks.
You have 45. How many of them are empty like this right now? 6. As we've reported in the Free Press, an estimated 50,000 ghost apartments currently sit empty because of this law. In a city experiencing a housing crisis.
So here's the first question I had is, he could probably rent these ghost apartments in a market where housing is in high demand. You look at this ghost apartment, there has to be some fairly handy people in New York that would be willing.
The problem is that most rent-stabilized apartments have the same tenant for...
We cleaned it up a little bit, but you'd see how terrible of a tenant the guy was.
Yeah, it looks bad, but I've seen worse. I could see a tenant really needing housing saying, hey, I'll take this and I'll improve this place.
Well, no appliances. Did you have to take them out after he left? Were they destroyed or?
They were destroyed, roach infested, they served no use.
Right, and then like, isn't usable, kitchen's not usable. If an apartment was rented...
Look at the cabinets and replace the cabinets. Some tenant who wanted a nice place to live, maybe the place was convenient for their job or something like that, the kid's school. These are cosmetic repairs, assuming the plumbing is up to par in this building. A handy tenant could come in and take this off of the landlord's hand, kind of off of the books. I would imagine you're going to start seeing somewhat of a gray economy in these ghost apartments.
Destroyed or?
They were destroyed, roach infested, they served no use.
Right, and then like, isn't usable, kitchen's not usable.
I mean, like, you know, this bathroom isn't far from being made usable. The bathroom cabinet here, that's probably $40, $50. You at the lowest, $50, $60 a pedestal sink, really cheaply, unless the plumbing is destroyed, the flooring or something like that. The bathtub, I've seen landlords get bathtubs glazed. Hell, I've gotten them glazed myself. I don't see a lot of severe damage where someone who just really needed a place to live couldn't come in here, put a little elbow grease in here, and make this livable.
If an apartment was rented for, say, would make it a code, landlords will lock the door and never rent them again. Have you gotten quoted for what it would take to bring this apartment back on the market?
Yeah, very low note, doing the minimal amount of work, probably 30,000 bucks.
You have 45 units?
Right, yep.
How many of them are empty like this right now?
6, yep.
We've reported in the Free Press, an estimated 50,000 ghost apartments currently sit empty because of this law. In a city experiencing a housing crisis.
And again, I just find it hard to believe that in a city with that housing crisis has apartments that $30,000 invested in it could be livable. Plenty of people in New York, plenty of people that are looking for housing in New York, they probably have some money that would take one of these ghost apartments as is with the city, and they could work out a deal with the landlord to rent these ghost apartments. I guarantee you that is definitely happening.
Crisis where there's never enough apartments to meet the demand, this outcome is catastrophic.
And that just translated into vacant apartments, you know, it's in values, in terms of property values, more sales, dollar volume. It makes it worse for everybody because I would love to give everyone a good quality, comfortable apartment that's abode, that doesn't.
From what I'm seeing, this is just filth.
Doesn't have, you know, broken floor cabinets that needs
broken floor tiles
to be replaced, but we are put in a position where we can't.
After taxes, building maintenance, insurance, and other costs, Jose's left with just $43,000 in profits. But that razor-thin profit margin can disappear quickly. When the war in Iran caused gas prices to spike in March, Jose estimated gas prices for this year would cost $30,000 more than last year. When Zoran Mamdani decrees he's not allowed to raise the rents, he's left with no path to recoup these sorts of rising costs. So are you in touch with other landlords in this neighborhood, and what are they saying about all of this?
They are not happy. They want to get out. They want to sell in most instances because it's just become such a world where you can't even do what you need to do because of the government and because of obviously the costs, and we're put in a place where we're pretty much like useless, and the government has more control than we have over our own property.
If nothing changes, what's gonna in like a year, 2 years?
I think more landlords that are in very tough financial shape will turn the keys over
To who?
back to the lenders.
Okay.
There's every avenue of those avenues available. They're going to be looking at some of these ghost apartments, and they're going to find tenants that are willing to live under the kind of the rent stabilized apartments, offer the landlord a decent enough wage, which is probably well above what he would get if it were rent stabilized, and they're probably willing to put in some repairs. I guarantee you there's to be at least one tenant who say, hey man, I'll rent this apartment as is, give me a decent price, and I'll do some fixing up around here.
Buildings will continue to fall into disrepair. Mold gets all over. It has to be eliminated and abated by not anyone, but, a contractor that costs, 3 for what someone else would pay to do it. And then you have violations that follow with that. So then you're being fined because you're not completing the violations, and it just spirals out of control where that landlord is just pushed up against the wall, and they don't have means to do it, even if they wanted to. Even if they were good landlords, they would have no other choice but to, hand it.
It's in this context that Mayor Mamdani has announced a new city policy to seize the property of bad landlords who don't properly keep up their buildings.
When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers.
When you think about that, what Mamdani is doing, he's creating dangerous conditions here. On one hand, he's saying if you can't keep your property up, we're going to take your property from you. And then on the other hand, he's saying while you're trying to keep your property up, you're not going to be able to raise the rents. That's a very challenging environment for the landlords. And again, I think the bigger point that we should look at here is what becomes of those ghost apartments. Do the landlords just sit on those apartments and not rent them to anyone? Or do the tenants step up and say, hey, Mr. Landlord, you got a good property going here. You need a little elbow grease in exchange for an above rent stabilized rent. I'm the man for you. And I think that's what's going to happen. And the people who are depending on the market stabilized housing, they are going to see kind of a market economy of the ghost apartments. Once again, I am John Galt, the Urban Landlord. Thank you for watching.